Bruce Dern, a legendary actor with a career spanning decades, is known for his unflinching honesty and no-nonsense attitude. From intense roles in films like The Hateful Eight to his iconic performances in Nebraska, Bruce has built a reputation as someone who doesn't shy away from speaking his mind. He's the kind of person who answers questions with weight, often leaving people thinking long after the conversation ends. Today he's sitting down for an interview. But this isn't just any interview, this is with a reporter known for their sharp tongue and relentless pursuit of a headline. A journalist who thrives on confrontation and is always looking for a way to provoke the subject. The kind of reporter who doesn't mind crossing boundaries to get a reaction, no matter how uncomfortable it may get. The room feels tense as the cameras roll. Bruce, calm and collected as always, is aware of the reporter's reputation. He's been in the spotlight long enough to know the game, but this time it seems like the reporter is determined to push him to his limits. There's a sense of anticipation in the air, almost like everyone in the room is waiting for a spark to ignite. This isn't going to be just another typical celebrity interview. The reporter is ready to take shots, and Bruce, well, he's ready for whatever comes next. Little do they know, this is about to become a moment neither of them will forget. The tension in the room thickens as the reporter leans forward, the smirk on their face barely hidden. They're ready to strike. Bruce, they begin, their voice sharp. You've spent most of your career playing tough, rugged characters, but we all know that off-screen, you've had your own struggles. Some might say you've been difficult to work with. What do you have to say to that? The question hangs in the air like a challenge, aimed directly at Bruce's reputation. It's the kind of question that's designed to rattle someone, to make them defensive. The reporter's eyes gleam, expecting a reaction, any reaction. They're waiting for Bruce to get angry, to slip up, to give them the juicy soundbite they can use to headline tomorrow's papers. But Bruce doesn't flinch. He sits back in his chair, his hands resting calmly in his lap. His expression remains unchanged, composed, as if he's heard much worse over the years. He's used to the questions, the insinuations, and the judgments. It's part of the territory when you've been in the spotlight for as long as he has. The reporter presses on, sensing that Bruce is holding back. Come on, Bruce, you've had public disagreements with directors, even co-stars. Is that just the price of being a method actor or something more? Again, Bruce doesn't show a hint of emotion. He knows what the reporter wants to see him unravel, to get an angry, defensive response that would make the reporter the center of attention. But Bruce, as always, remains quiet. His eyes meet the reporter's, calm and steady. The room falls silent, and even the crew can feel the intensity of the moment. The reporter's smug grin begins to fade, realizing they're not getting the reaction they expected. The reporter isn't backing down. They can feel the shift in the room, the tension that's rising. Bruce's lack of reaction has thrown them off, but they're determined to regain control. All right, Bruce, the reporter says, leaning forward once more. But let's talk about your reputation in Hollywood. People say you've burned bridges over the years, that you've pushed too many people too far. What do you say to those who think you're a liability? The reporter's tone is sharp, biting. There's no pretense of politeness anymore. This is about getting a headline, no matter what it costs. They expect Bruce to squirm under the pressure, to defend himself or lash out. The reporter is banking on the idea that everyone has a breaking point. But Bruce doesn't blink. He's heard it all before. The insinuations, the judgments, the assumptions that come with being in the public eye. He knows exactly what the reporter is trying to do, and he's not playing along. Do you really believe that? Bruce asks, his voice steady but carrying a weight of experience. Do you think that because someone doesn't conform to the expectations others set, they've somehow burned bridges? The question hangs in the air, challenging the reporter to reconsider their approach, but the reporter isn't finished yet. They lean in even closer, their gaze intent. Is that your way of admitting that maybe you did push people too far? You just refuse to admit it. The words are designed to poke and prod, to get under Bruce's skin. The reporter wants to break him, to get him to admit something, anything, that would make the story more interesting. But Bruce doesn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, he takes a deep breath, his expression unchanging. I'm not here to explain myself to you, or anyone else. If people want to judge me for the work I've done, they're welcome to. But I don't owe anyone an apology. The reporter pauses, their confidence faltering for just a moment. They've hit a wall. Bruce's calmness, his certainty, is disarming. For a brief second, the room feels quieter than before. The reporter knows they've pushed as far as they can, but they're not ready to give up yet. The reporter, frustrated but determined, presses on. They can feel the walls closing in, but they're unwilling to let up. They need that moment of drama, that moment that will make the interview go viral. They try again. "Look, Bruce," the reporter says, shifting in their chair, "I'm just asking the hard questions. Everyone else is too scared to do it. You've been in this industry long enough to know the consequences of pushing people around. You think your reputation won't catch up with you." Bruce leans back in his chair, his hands still resting casually on his lap. He takes a moment before responding, letting the silence fill the room. He knows this question is coming, and he's prepared for it. But his answer is something the reporter wasn't ready for. "Maybe it has," Bruce says slowly, his voice calm and measured. "But here's the thing, my reputation is built on honesty, on doing the work that mattered to me. If I've pushed people, it's because I've always believed in doing what's real, even when others would rather play it safe." The reporter's eyes narrow. They weren't expecting this. They thought they had Bruce cornered, ready to crack. But instead, Bruce has just turned the tables, and the shift in power is palpable. "Is that your way of saying you don't care about what others think?" the reporter asks, trying to regain control. Bruce doesn't hesitate. "I don't care about their version of me. I care about who I am when I wake up in the morning. If you're asking me whether I regret any of it, I don't. I've lived my life my way." The words hang in the air, heavy and unshakable. The room is quiet, save for the faint sound of the camera rolling. Everyone can feel it now. The reporter's confidence is faltering. They came in expecting an easy target, but they've just been handed something far more profound than they expected. The reporter shifts uncomfortably in their seat. They try to compose themselves, but Bruce's words have left them momentarily speechless. For a brief moment, they don't know how to respond. Bruce's unexpected clarity has thrown them off balance. It's clear now, this isn't a battle of wits. It's a moment of realization. Bruce isn't interested in fighting back with anger. He's simply standing firm in his truth, and it's more powerful than any clever comeback or attempt to provoke. The reporter, rattled by Bruce's calm and collected response, is scrambling to regain control of the conversation. They've been expecting an emotional outburst, a crack in Bruce's armor, but instead they've encountered something much more powerful. Something they hadn't planned for. Still, they refuse to back down. The interview isn't over yet, and they can't afford to let this moment slip away without getting something more. The reporter clears their throat, trying to regain their composure. "So you're saying you've never cared about the way you're perceived by others?" the reporter asks, their tone shifting slightly, trying to sound more casual, as though they're just probing deeper into the subject. "Even when it's cost you friendships, opportunities?" Bruce looks directly at them, unfazed by the sudden change in tone. "I never said that," he replies, his voice still steady. "But I've always known that not everyone is going to like me, or agree with me. You can't please everyone. I've never tried to. What I've done in my career is because I believed in it. If that's cost me friendships or opportunities, then that's just part of the deal." The reporter's face tightens. This isn't going how they expected. They're not getting the fiery defensive response they were hoping for. Bruce's honesty is disarming, and the reporter knows they've reached a point where they can't get under his skin. "So you're really okay with all of it?" the reporter presses, trying to catch Bruce off guard. "The people who think you're too difficult to work with. The roles you lost because of your, well, stubbornness." Bruce doesn't flinch. "If I lost roles, then I lost them. I'm not going to apologize for it. I've worked with some incredible people, and I've had an amazing career. If others see me as difficult, that's their opinion, not mine." The reporter's jaw clenches. They've pushed and prodded, trying to force Bruce into an emotional corner, but instead they've gotten a measured, calm response every time. The atmosphere in the room grows heavier, and the reporter realizes they've reached the limits of their strategy. They shift in their seat, but the smug grin that had once been there is gone now, replaced by a faint frustration. They know the interview has taken a turn they didn't expect. The reporter, visibly flustered but not willing to back down, takes one last swing. They know this is their final chance to make something dramatic out of this interview. The tension in the room is palpable, and everyone can feel the weight of the moment. "All right, Bruce," the reporter says, leaning forward one final time. "You say you've lived your life your way, but doesn't that also mean you've hurt people along the way? There's always been talk about how your personal life affects your career. Can you admit that your stubbornness has caused damage?" The reporter's words hang in the air, almost like an accusation, daring Bruce to lash out. But Bruce remains unshaken, his expression unchanged. He's been through the fire before, and he knows how to handle it now. Bruce takes a deep breath, his eyes never leaving the reporter's. "People can think whatever they want about me," he begins, his voice steady. "But if you think I've hurt people just for the sake of it, then you're mistaken. I've made mistakes, yes. I'm human, but I've always tried to be honest, and I've always stood by the work I believe in. If that's too much for some, then that's something I can't control." The reporter tries to push further, their voice growing more insistent. "But don't you ever regret it? Don't you ever wish you could have done things differently, maybe softened your approach?" Bruce pauses for a moment, considering the question. His answer is simple, yet it's the kind of response that leaves the reporter struggling to find words. "No," Bruce finally says, his voice calm but resolute. "I don't regret it. Not for 1 second." The room falls into an almost complete silence. The crew, the reporter, even the interviewer, they all realize that Bruce's answer is the end of the line. There's nothing more to say. His final words carry weight, and they hang in the air like a truth that can't be ignored. The reporter, visibly rattled, opens their mouth to speak again, but nothing comes out. They're stuck, unable to form a response. Bruce has won the moment, not with anger or force, but with sheer, unwavering conviction. Bruce stands up slowly, his movements deliberate. He looks at the reporter one last time, a hint of something, maybe respect, maybe something else in his eyes. And then, without another word, he turns and walks away, leaving the reporter sitting in stunned silence. As the interview wraps up, the tension in the room lingers. Bruce Dern has left the reporter with nothing to say. The crew, once on edge, now exchanges looks with a mixture of admiration and surprise. They'd expected fireworks, but instead they witnessed something much more powerful: Bruce's quiet, unshakable resolve. The reporter, still sitting in their chair, is at a loss. They've tried everything to provoke Bruce, to get that dramatic response, but all they've done is reveal their own frustration. There's a clear shift in their demeanor now. The smugness that had once dominated their expression is replaced with something closer to defeat. Behind the scenes, the crew begins to pack up, their whispers filling the room. "Did you see that?" one of them says. "He handled that like a pro." Another nods. "I thought for sure he'd blow up, but he just shut it down." In the corner, a production assistant shakes their head. "I've never seen anyone handle an interview like that before." The reporter didn't know what hit them. The reporter finally stands, straightening their papers, trying to recover their professional composure, but it's clear they've been rattled. They can't hide the frustration in their eyes, the realization that they've been bested, not by someone younger or more aggressive, but by Bruce Dern's pure, quiet strength. As they leave the room, the reporter's mind races. How will they spin this? The interview may not have gone as planned, but they'll have to find a way to salvage something from it. It's clear, though, that no matter how hard they try, the true story won't be about Bruce's mistakes, it will be about his dignity.